After 11 years since the release of Shadow of the Colossus, a beloved game that mesmerized everyone despite having various technical issues, Team Ico is back with its latest game, The Last Guardian. Will it also be able to mesmerize the masses despite having its own share of problems? Are current gamers forgiving enough to see the diamond in the rough? Let's find out. As many of you probably know, this game went through development hell, and you can feel that while playing. Graphically, it does seem like a game that began its development on the PlayStation 3, but was then later upgraded to meet the visual demands of the current generation. An upgrade they did. While textures seem to not have changed much since the PS3 era, everything else is up to par or even beyond what you'd expect from a modern AAA game, with Trico, your animal companion, being among the most visually striking characters I've ever seen in a video game. The lighting and animation are also fantastic, and the unique architecture that Team Ico is known for will have you stopping frequently to take it all in. I know all games are art, since they are created by artists. Yes, that means even Call of Duty, but this is the kind of game I could see showcased in a museum. It's on another level. The music and sound effects are also excellent and fit perfectly with what's happening on screen. Aside from a particular battle theme looping a little more than I'd like, there really weren't any situations where I wish the audio had been different. Big props to the designers of all things aesthetic in this game. As for the story, not since Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons has a game left me so emotionally drained. The developers knew exactly how to tug at your heartstrings, and there were so many moments in The Last Guardian that made me sit on edge, wondering what was going to happen to this charming duo. Like Brothers, it accomplishes all this with barely any dialogue. The narrative is delivered minimally, giving you little pieces here and there until it all clicks together in its final moments. And similar to Shadow of the Colossus, you may ponder about those final moments for some time after the credits have rolled. There's more I could say about the story, but I encourage you all to play the game without knowing anything beforehand, other than the spoiler-free footage you'll see in this video, of course. The less said about it, the better. Sadly, this is where my compliments must come to an end. The game has problems, big ones. Problems that have no business being in a $60 game, much less one that took 9 years to develop, much less one that has no real replayability or multiplayer component and relies completely on the strength of its 12-hour single-player campaign. Let's begin with the most obvious and glaring issue, the frame rate. This is the worst performing console game I've played since, well, maybe Shadow of the Colossus. Most of my playthrough was below 30 frames per second, sometimes even dipping below 20. Strangely enough, I found that restarting the game would sometimes help with a particular scene I was struggling through, leading me to believe there was some kind of RAM leak. It's the kind of thing I'd see on a PC trying to run a beastly game with only the minimum requirements met, but not a console game that was built specifically for one single platform. One of the biggest appeals as a console gamer is being able to put in a game and have it run smoothly without much issue. So this was more than a little jarring, and coupled with an unwieldy camera that often obscures your view, it made the often frustrating gameplay even more frustrating. Yes, that's right, the gameplay also has its share of problems. Despite Trico's AI being some of the best and most believable I've seen in a game, it can thoroughly test your patience when she simply will not do what you tell her to do. At first it's cute and endearing, because this is an animal and it lends to the believability of the creature, but when it happened over and over, and I just wanted to progress to the next area, it felt more like the AI was busted. If it didn't take so long to get Trico to go where you want, I feel like this would have been a much shorter game than it is. Additionally, the feel of movement and the controls haven't changed much since Shadow of the Colossus, meaning it's all pretty floaty. Thankfully, there's no stamina meter this time, so you can hang on to Trico till your heart's content, but navigating around her, especially when you need to pull spears out of her body, can be a hassle. Which brings us to the combat. This is how it usually plays out. You are swarmed by these armored things, they grab you, you mash buttons frantically before they can capture you, you run away and repeat the process until Trico kills them all, which can take a while. Aside from a few moments where you have to knock down these guys who hold stained glass pieces that instill fear in Trico, that's what the majority of the combat boils down to. It's not a lot of fun, and it happens often. In fact, that's a sentence I could use to describe most of the gameplay elements in The Last Guardian, because it's all very basic and quite repetitive. Whether I was commanding Trico to jump from ledge to ledge, or finding barrel after barrel of food for her to eat, I was doing largely the same things throughout the game, and it began to really wear on me after a few hours. Sometimes it took a real effort on my part to force myself through to the end, but I'm glad I did. In some ways, I wonder if this frustrating and often dull gameplay was intentional and not just the product of development hell, because at the end of the game I felt like I'd really endured. I felt like I overcame so much that I'd been on an epic journey full of highs and lows. Similar to Spec Ops: The Line, The Last Guardian is not a game I'd want to replay anytime soon, but it's a game I'm glad I finished. I can't speak for those who absolutely demand their games maintain 30 frames per second, or have their games entertain moment to moment with new and varied gameplay mechanics, but The Last Guardian gets my recommendation. Just make sure you pick it up on sale or give it a rent. Otherwise, unless you're a devoted trophy hunter, you're not going to have much else to do once the credits roll, except maybe go grab a smoke or a drink to calm your nerves and ponder about the immensely emotional journey you just experienced.